let everything go. I really tried to give it everything I had. I wanted to perform for
That's Lindsey Vonn for you.
and I like it when there's pressure. It brings the best out of me, and the crowd brought the best out of me today.
Who knew we would bear witness to Lindsey Vonn's brilliance on the snow again? And just as expected, she did not disappoint. In fact, she shocked the entire world with what she recently did. US skiing legend Lindsey Vonn is pledging to fight on to reach her dream of a 5th Winter Olympic Games next year at Milano Cortina 2026. I'm not gonna give up. I believe in myself, and I know with hard work, I will get to where I dream of going, Vonn wrote in a post last month. She remarked, "I love skiing, and that's the only reason I came back to this sport." The emotional post comes on the heels of her first appearance at the World Alpine Skiing Championships in 6 years. However, her results in Salbach were a far cry from the form that has seen her collect 3 Olympic medals, including downhill gold in 2010 and 8 podium finishes at the World Championships. In her first official race back though, Vonn finished 15th in the downhill, 16th in the team combined, and skied out early in the Super G. In the same post, she said, "I wish I could have done better, but I didn't. I did my best with what I had, and I know I don't handle every situation perfectly, because I'm very far from perfect. But I do care, probably too much, which is why my emotions get the best of me sometimes." This is why taking breaks in between is a great thing, and Lindsey was able to do just that. What do the top alpine skiing racers do when they have some downtime between races? Well, when they aren't training on the slopes, many of them have hobbies. And for Lindsey Vonn, this involved a trip to Paris. A few days back, Vonn returned to the French capital, where she attended last year's Olympic Games, Paris 2024, as a spectator for Paris Fashion Week. There, she took in the Balenciaga fashion show, turning up in an all-black outfit, which she shared on social media. Her post attracted comments from track and field great Allyson Felix and women's rugby icon Ilona Maher, who described Vonn as the hottest villain. She's a force to be reckoned with on and off the snow. As a recap, Vonn made her comeback to the World Cup circuit this season, after more than 5 years away, with her best result so far being a 4th place finish in the St. Anton, Austria, Super G. She also raced at the World Championships, her 9th appearance and her first in 6 years, finishing 15th and 16th in 2 races, and failing to reach the finish in the other. A few days after her Paris Fashion Week attendance, Lindsey Vonn was the top American in the FIS World Cup Super G in La Tuile, Italy. The 40-year-old blitzed the 3 Franco Bertode slope in 58.65 seconds to place 13th, as Federica Brignone won her 10th race of the season by 0.01 over countrywoman Sofia Goggia. "I think today was definitely better than yesterday," Vonn said, "but I wish I would have been able to ski a little bit faster. I'm just right on the wrong side of the tenths today." Fresh off a speed weekend in Kvitfjell, Norway, that saw her place 13th, 16th, and 16th in a pair of downhills and won Super G, Vonn posted a DNF in Italy. The following day, warm weather led to a sloppier, slower course for later racers. Gunning it from the gate in bib number 4, Vonn took advantage of her early start. She had just the 34th best opening split, but found her groove at the bottom of the hill, posting the 6th fastest final sector. "I think for me, it was important to get to the finish line today," Vonn said. "It went uphill from there," pun intended. A few days ago, Vonn made her first podium since returning from a 5-year retirement, finishing 2nd in the Super G at the World Cup Finals in Sun Valley, Idaho, in her last race of the season. Vonn finished 1.29 seconds back in 2nd place in what was likely her last World Cup race on US soil, 11 months before she hopes to race at a 5th Olympics at the Milan Cortina Games. "I usually do better when the pressure's higher," Vonn, an 82-time World Cup winner and the 2010 Olympic downhill champion, said on NBC Sports. "It's the last race of the season. I just put it all on the line. This is the level that I know I can ski. I know I can even do better than that. It's been a rough season of people saying that I can't, that I'm too old, that I'm not good enough anymore. I think I proved everyone wrong. At 40 years old, Lindsey shattered the record of the oldest women's World Cup podium finisher. Notably, Vonn made the first podium of her comeback in her 13th World Cup race. Her best previous finishes this season were 6th in a downhill and 4th in a Super G in early January. This year has just been really up and down, and it's been hard to stay positive sometimes, especially because people are telling me that I should just quit. Again, said Vonn, whose 138 World Cup podiums are tied for third most in history, and 408 World Cup starts are one off Austrian Renate Götzschel's female record. It is also worth noting that Vonn had a couple of crashes this season, had trouble adjusting to her equipment, and even made big mistakes in some runs. Fortunately, her right knee, which was partially replaced last April after major surgeries earlier in her career, has stayed healthy. In fact, she hasn't had to ice it once for the first time in maybe a decade. So, it wasn't about how I was physically this year, she said. It was just, I couldn't put all the pieces together in one run. At the end of the day, Lindsey Vonn never doubted herself. Now, no one else can, either. Her silver in the Super G at the World Cup Finals was her first time on the World Cup podium since March 2018. When Vonn crossed the finish line, the crowd at the Sun Valley Resort erupted in cheers. Vonn grinned and shook her fists, then dropped her head and began crying. "Hi," she said, when asked where this medal ranks among her many, many accomplishments. "When I started this, no one thought that I would even get into the top 30. I haven't been racing World Cups for 6 years. I have a partial knee replacement. I'm 40 years old," Vonn said, emotion thick in her voice. "Again, I always knew what was possible. But as much as I love skiing, it's been a hard road," she said. "I've been knocked down so many times in my life, personally, physically, mentally, and I always pick myself back up." That she definitely did. She further stated, "It's been a rough season of people saying that I can't, that I'm too old, that I'm not good enough anymore. I think I proved everyone wrong." Vonn's trademark smile made its appearance, joined by her raising both hands in the air. Moments later, the tears came as she realized what she had achieved just 4 months into her comeback from 5 years away. On her 408th World Cup start, and in perhaps her last race on US snow, she clinched her 138th podium finish. As is no secret, Vonn's goal in her comeback is to make her 5th Olympic team in 2026, and then retire for good next year. She's well on her way. "Today meant everything to me," said Vonn, whose 12 career World Cup wins at Cortina are a record for the venue. "This is the road now to Cortina next year. Watch this to see if this athlete has the chance to do great this season as well."